What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Political Soul Food. It's been a minute, and I'm happy to be back here with all of you. Yeah, this is our mission to come out here and chop it up, to get informed, to pump each other up, encourage each other, and remind everyone to have the audacity to hope and to keep making America a better place, to go forward and not backwards. And that's what we're dealing with right now, trying to go forward and not go backwards. I want to say what's up to Dr. Marshall up in here on Instagram. Yes, 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 it's good to be back here on the gram and reconnecting and doing what I love to do, and that is encouraging each other to put in our time to make American society, as I said, always a better society. And that means we have to deal with the inequalities on the racial, economic, and social front. And that's a tall order. And we're not going to be able to do it alone individually. We got to do it together. Yes. All right. And so don't get discouraged when you're in your own space and you think that, hey, what can you do? What can you change? Just remember, you can change a lot when you connect and network with others. So make sure you stay involved, you stay connected, and keep yourself rejuvenated with people who are about positive change. So tonight's topic, thanks for tuning in. We got Samuel up in the house. Samuel made it. Samuel's in the place to be. Bro, it's good to see you. It's very encouraging. Thanks, thanks, thanks. So here's the theme, just in case you haven't seen the story I posted. How Democrats, progressives, and liberals should invest in the 2020 presidential election. How they should invest, how we should invest. What does that mean? Well, we all know that winning an election takes a lot of time and money and hard work. All right, and we have that. We have money. We have, well, time. I know all of us are busy and not everyone is going to be a canvasser or someone out there. But in terms of reaching a poll or connecting with somebody in a conversation and helping them realize what's at stake, all of this capital is available. One way or another is going to be available to varying degrees for each of us, depending on our lives. But at the end of the day, when we bring it all together, where do we put it? Where do we place it? Who do we emphasize? Which places do we put a lot of time of money and persuasion? Where does all of this go? All right, and that's what I want to talk about today. I am drawing from a text that I highly recommend, and I'm going to reach out to the author of this book. And I always mention Steve Phillips, and the name of the book is called Brown is the New White: How the Demographic Revolution has created a new American majority. All right. Brown is the New White: How the Demographic Revolution has created a new American majority. This is a really cool book. I've been pulling out a lot of information from this book and providing it here on Political Soul Food. And I think moving forward in the future, I'm going to start doing that more consistently, taking books and summarizing the chapters, extracting key ideas for everyone who comes here, because I think they're very useful, and at least you will know what is in my mind, what kind of things are guiding my decisions and energizing me to come out here and say, hey, yo, we can do this, and don't worry, things are going to get better. I want to say what's up to Dr. Aldermeyer up in the place to be. So again, how Democrats, progressives, liberals should invest in the 2020 election. And so let me just break down some of these points here. Let me just say what's up to Facebook. I see Facebook crew over here. Juan, thanks for chiming in. This is going to be a good talk. And the reason why I know is because I did some digging. This is coming from chapter 7 in that book. And I pulled out what I think are some good pieces of information for us. Now, the name of that chapter is Invest Wisely. All right. Now, the premise of this book is that there is now a new American majority, which consists of people of color and progressive whites, all of whom are people who are likely to vote for progressive policies, people who are likely to vote for improvement in education, Obamacare or Medicare for all, and reduction of its America's military footprint, reforming criminal justice issues, and all of that good stuff, right? And so what he lays out in his book is the evidence to show that there is a majority of people who will vote in that particular direction, the people who voted for Obama. However, the issue is activating those folks, and also, even more importantly, making that constituency aware of itself, and likely as well, equally, making sure the Democratic Party as an organization is aware of that group. So this is the premise of the book, and the book just doesn't try to speak this into existence. The author does well, Phillips does well to ground his statements in data. So it's a data-driven book. And while I speak about it from an inspirational, point of view, I am not just, getting a dollar and folding it up and wishing for something to happen. No, this is information that is very useful. And so in chapter 7, Invest Wisely, Phillips is basically making the case that Democrats, progressives, or liberals, whoever you are on the left, should focus your money, our time, efforts, everything in certain places where there are certain people. And so let's check this out. So we got some comments here. Samuel says, we have to find a way to use and capitalize the financial economic power that African American spends $1.3 trillion into the U.S. economy. So it is possible to make a statement and movement. That's absolutely correct. It has to become from within us, only not any outsiders. Absolutely. The needle can be moved, not including the affluent African American community. Something to think about. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, there's so many layers to this right here. And as Samuel's bringing out, a particular group on the left, for example, the African American community, has a lot of capital that could be employed for political and economic, social endeavors. Now, so the first thing first, the whole idea is that I'm sure some of you who don't like money in politics, you're probably going to cringe when I say this, but money is needed to win. Money is needed to win. How much money? That's an issue. It is a lot, though. I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of money is needed. And while we want to, at some day in the future, no time soon, dismantle Citizens United, it is what it is right now. And so what we have to recognize is that money is needed to win. And if we don't invest money, the messages and the people who carry these messages to others around the country won't exist without money to fund these initiatives. Okay, so when a campaign occurs, maybe a local politician or senator or whoever you have in mind that you want to support, their message won't get out unless there's money given to the campaign. Hiring people to spread the word, for example, or getting an ad on TV. So money is needed. I'm sorry to say, money is needed. And right now, we're in a political jungle where the other team, Republicans, are not going to play fair. They're not playing fair. Okay, forget money, and then they're already gerrymandering unjustly and enacting voter suppression strategies that are very successful around the country. So you have money and other things that we have to be concerned with. But I want to let you know, money is important so that you send some donations to some of your politicians. They need it. Okay. So now that I get that out the way, So, because I know, there are many on the left who's just not gonna shoot back at me. But right now, there's nothing you can do. Even Bernie, who wants to reform Wall Street, needs money and is raising a lot of money. Okay, he understands that. So you can talk and point fingers about other people. If you don't got that moolah, you're not getting into the office. Phew. Sorry to say, that's the way it is. Now, where should Democrats, progressives, and liberals put the money? I hate that I have to differentiate like that. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, people who are voting Democrats are more or less liberals and progressives. But certain progressives, certain liberals like to say, I'm a liberal, not a Democrat. Fine, I consider myself a liberal and progressive and a Democrat. Anyway, whoever you are, whoever you're pushing for on the left, we need to know where to invest. I like what Phillips does here in his book. So what he does is look at the environment of these concepts, the concept of investment, right? And so he gets into business and he creates a model that is basically a bunch of pieces of advice from people who do investments and make a lot of money from investing, right? Good investors, people who know how to make $10 from $1. All right. Now, he gives 3 points, but I'm just going to focus mainly on one. And that is, one thing is we have to look out for the market. What is the growing market? All investors look for the market that's expanding, the market that they could win in, the market with the most options, the most customers, the growing market. And then you try to figure out how to reach your potential customers in that market. And also, you want to make long-term strategies, long-term investments to get as much return as you can, not just in a short period, but long period, because this is an end game. Politics is an end game kind of thing. Like, you got to think, and if you play chess, now, anybody who knows anything about chess, you got to think more than one move ahead. Okay, now you might think in specific moves, but sometimes it's very complicated, too complicated to think about every single individual move. What you do is try to realize the overall strategy. And as you move, you realize what particular tactics to employ. But you want to look at the overarching strategy based on the structure of your game. That's a little bit for the chess players out there. The same thing could be said about other sports and other activities. So in politics, we want to think long term. We want to think long term. And Beauty Undefined is up in the house. Good looks. Thanks for coming through. It was good to see you. Good to see you. And we got beautiful Butterfly. Cuzzo was good. It's good to see y'all. So, key thing here, growing market. What is the growing market for the left? What is the growing market for Democrats, for liberals and progressives? That's the question we have to ask. That's the key question, because that's going to tell us individually, but also as a group, who we need to reach out to. Okay, not everybody's going to be a customer. You don't go into a business thinking you're going to get every single person. You go into a business knowing that there's a market for you, that you are able to serve or meet a need or satisfy someone's appetite or desire. You feel me? So, the markets on the left consist of minorities. And guess what? That market is expanding. People of color, African Americans, Latino Americans, Asian Americans, you name it. Not only that, you have minorities in different categories, like religious minorities, because a lot of them, or all of these constituencies, are facing a lot of heat from, unfortunately, I got to say it like this, got to keep it real, white Americans who want America to be more like it was back in the day. All right. So they have a common purpose, although each group may have very specific needs and wants. Okay. But that is the market. All of them together consist of the market that we want to tap into. Why? Because first of all, they're interested in the product. What's the product? Democratic policies are the product. Okay, Obamacare. This country wants Obamacare, and in fact, it wants to go beyond Obamacare. Two, this country wants to tone down discrimination. In fact, they want to clean it out. Right? We're ready to scrub, clean with some Clorox, and get discrimination, racism out of here. Also, we want justice for equal pay. Women needs to get their fair share. The LGBT community also want to be able to live as they want to live, make choices, and choose their own identity, and participate fully as first-class citizens, and not be restricted by someone's religious views, particularly in a country that upholds separation of church and state. Come on. So that's the product. That's the product that people want, that the majority of eligible voters want. That's the market the Democratic Party has to tap into. That is what they have to tap into. Now, what does that mean? It means something that is going to be very tough for a lot of candidates who are running now for presidency. They're going to have to make a decision. And I think they're coming around. Some of them are showing that, because Hillary actually showed the path. And that is, they don't have to try to appease white swing voters. White voters who go back and forth, who are able to surf the waves, regardless if it takes them into the Republican seas or the blue seas, the kind of people who could vote for Obama and didn't vote for Trump. Hey, those are not dependable voters. That is not a strong market at all. That's not the market we want. Those are not reliable customers. Not at all. They're not reliable customers. So any business would, in a similar situation would say, wait a minute, we have a market, a group of individuals, people who want our product, and we are investing money to get those who could just flip on us at any time. Why waste the money when we can get more returns? And it's already been proven that the product is wanted by these other groups, by minority groups, in the way that they turned out for President Barack Obama in 2008. And not just that, they turned out in the midterms, giving the Democratic Party, by the time Obama was elected, a lead in the House and in the Senate. Okay? But because we ignored that market, we end up losing the House in 2010. Because we ignored that market, we end up losing the Senate in 2014. And I will be careful here. It gets really complicated here. I wouldn't say the market was ignored when Hillary won, particularly because of her lead in the popular vote, her extraordinary lead. I mean, her lead is historic. I mean, she won by more points than necessary to have been president of the United States. She lost the electoral vote, and so we get into that. But it was historic because basically Trump, out of all the people who lost all the presidents who lost the popular vote but won the electoral vote, he lost the popular vote by the widest margin. Okay, and so there's a lot to that. As we know, the Mueller report uncovers the assistance that Trump received from Russia. And also, not only that, what we're seeing now, courts are now dismantling gerrymandered states and districts. Okay, and that actually was my news for today too. I almost forgot to say, I had asked you on one of my stories to try to figure out what happened, what good things happened in Michigan and Ohio. Well, judges were like, listen, we're striking down the drawing of the districts, which overwhelmingly, to the extent that it it goes against the Constitution. It becomes unconstitutional. The way the districts were drawn were constitution were unconstitutional because it translated into people's vote not being treated or counted fairly or equally. All right, so that's something else. However, in terms of the our midterms and also presidential elections, we have to, as a party or as a coalition, target the people who are likely to vote for the issues we are fighting for. And that is the minority community. That's the main message I wanted to give today. All right. Now, again, that means going after, in a way that Bernie has been trying to do, trying to pull over the blue collar workers. No. I mean, just from a strategic point of view, I mean, I'm not trying to like be dismissive of people's needs and concerns, but it's politics right now. All right. This is the negotiations of power and capital and all that stuff. And people want to win. So for the party to win right now, you have to understand that, when we win, we help those who want, better policies for them. But we can't depend on them if they're flipping. Nah, they're swinging around, and we don't want to talk about them. We want to talk about those who are saying, I want to buy from you, but give me the product I want. All right. So that means Democrats need to be bold in proposing policies for minority groups. All right. And two, they need to be bold in supporting the organizations. And this is even more important because when it comes to policy, you never get the exact policy you want, but you want to make it clear that you're going to push for it and make an effort to do so, of course. But you can show your commitment by investing early, putting money in the communities that have tons of voters who would vote, but are not really encouraged to vote, or because of voter suppressive issues, they don't turn out. And we have to find these pockets. And I'm saying we have to find the pockets are already known. Okay. For example, if you think about what happened in Georgia and Florida, Georgia, you might as well think of Georgia as a swing state right now. Because the minority vote there is so strong that it almost took the governorship. It almost turned it blue. That's how much blue is there. So one of the things that the Democratic Party wants to do is invest heavily in those pockets. Same thing with Florida. And even Texas now. Texas is getting a little blue tan for sure. So Beto obviously symbolized that in the way he received support and a huge turnout. So we want to focus on these areas in various states. And to do that, that means we have to speak their language, speak to their concerns, and not mince our words when it comes to the obstruction to the policies that they put forth. One of the trappings that Democrats fall prey to is as they propose certain initiatives and policies, they tone down the language or the enthusiasm, or they reframe a policy so that they don't scare off white swing voters. And I'll give them a pass for trying to do that right after Reagan. When Clinton came around, Bill Clinton came around, he was trying to speak to the what is called the Reagan Democrats. But it's clear now that the Reagan Democrats, and probably at that time even, are not the ones we should be chasing after, and the ones we should not be adjusting our language and rhetoric for. No. So, one of the recommendations is to increase the face-to-face contact with people who are likely to vote on the left. All right. So that means instead of just putting up general ads, no, Let's get some boots on the ground, get people knocking on the doors, and some phone calls. All right, saying, listen, we know it's tough out here, but we're fighting on your behalf. But as you can see, we're facing some heavy fire and some resistance. We need your vote. What can we do to help you vote? Any questions or concerns? What's specific to your community that you want on the agenda? We got to get down there and talk to them. Who are the representatives in your community? Let's get in contact with them. Okay, are there any organizations that are trying to make things happen in your community so that the Democratic Party can funnel some money into? These are the things the party has to do. The organizations need to do. All right. Another thing is, and I'm going to use the words Steve Phillips used, change the complexion of the leadership and the organizations and institutions. And we're starting to see that in the House. You know, a lot of people, we saw an increase of women and people of color in Congress elected in 2018. All right. So we need to do that purposefully. We need to be ahead of the curve, something that Obama understood very well. And I think Bernie learned his lesson. He's coming around full circle really strong on that matter. And Steve Phillips was real. He understands how embedded, whiteness is in a lot of organizations. So he says, even if it's at number 2 positions or number 3 positions, political organizations should really try to they got to make an effort to get more women and more people of color in the organizations and in places of power. And the Democratic Party has shown an awareness of that, and they need to keep moving in that direction, full speed ahead. Yes, they have to. Because when you change the complexion, when you change the leadership, when you change who occupy places of power, you tap into the communities those people and those faces represent. So to let us know that, oh, we are welcome here. Because if you don't, you got to understand the history and how it translates. It's just in the air. We remember, even if you haven't lived through, we know whites only, colors only, and what that and how that feels. And even today, you can just walk into places and, as a person of color, I can feel uncomfortable knowing that I'm not really welcome here. All right. So we want to dispel that even more and say, listen, mi casa es su casa. That's what the Democratic Party needs to do more blatantly, more conspicuously, and the individual candidates need to open up the doors. And I think they are. Elizabeth Warren ain't playing games now. She sees what it is. And Bernie definitely is. Now, a lot of people try to say he had like a very mixed constituency, but it is a little bit more mixed now. Sean King's doing a lot to help out with that. And that's good. That is very, very good. So we need to put more women and people of color up front to tap into the markets. You know who's doing this? You got like big companies are doing this. They're changing their faces. Even the commercials. All right. Yeah, they're doing this. Now, if corporate America is making that move to diversify, their TV ads, to diversify their staff, and obviously there's a lot of room to go. If they're doing it, the political organization need to jump on that real fast. Because corporate America don't play. It's all about the advantage and the profit. So that's something we got to tap into. And as we do that, we need to be brave and go into the battleground states. Make certain states battleground states. All right. So like Georgia, we need to keep the pressure on Georgia. Now, obviously, we got some work to do in Ohio, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And that's a lot. That's more of the legal work too. That's not excluding everything else I said, but Michigan, we need to redistrict Georgia districts over. Wisconsin, the same deal, and Ohio, the same deal. And we got to watch out for those voter purging, that's going on. Because Michigan, it was Ohio, a lot of names were purged. Okay, and people didn't know. So we have to, those are some technical issues that we need to deal with. But typically, those states are key states. And Hillary would have won had those states not been sabotaged by voter suppression and gerrymandering. So we definitely have to keep our eye on that. at the same time, a lot of people are saying, oh, she should have, campaigned more in Wisconsin or certain places. But she understood. And so what that means, like, yeah, we have to go try to get those swing voters, the white swing voters. So Hillary was letting us know, nah, you don't need to do that. I went there, I spoke with them. I sent them the message. I told them that factory jobs or the certain jobs are now fading away. And we need to look towards the new growing markets, look at where clean energy and solar power is taking us, and also where education can get us. And she told them the real deal. What more? You need her to go down there and pat them on the back. Ooh, Remy, I'm going to take care of you. I'm sorry for the rough time you're having in our American society thing. No, she ain't got time for that, right? They shouldn't want that. They should want the facts. The facts about the industrial and technological trends of our society. And that's what she dropped to them. But they didn't care about that. All right. And so when people come after her saying, yo, she should have, campaigned more in those places, then obviously I didn't know as much at the time either. And certainly everyone else didn't know. We're just saying you have to cater to and pamper the white swing voters. No. Our backs are not against the wall because of them no more. Just not that. After 1964, 1965, 2 decades, 3 decades after that, we have a whole new constituency right now that can vote. All right? That's what she did. She tapped into that. That's what we have to tap into. That's what we tap into now. It's one of the reasons why I like Kamala Harris. She meets a lot of that criteria. Different complexion. Keep it real. She's a woman. And she represents the community. And people go, oh, you're just looking at the surface. Well, don't let me get started with that, first of all. But we all know the power of symbolic representation in this country. So don't even try it. All right. And we all know what any politician, especially a black politician, is up against. Okay. Forget a politician. Think about what our parents, our forefathers and foremothers were up against. Just being black, walking in the middle of the street was a problem. They had to change how they talk and look and all that stuff in certain places and spaces. So let's not try to play her, because she was a district attorney and all that stuff, and she did what she had to do doing her job. But her record she has a really good record, and I'll talk about that later. But I want to get sidetracked. Anyway. At the end of the day, we have some new battleground states like North Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Florida for sure. And these states are battleground because of the growing minority community. And also, let me just drop this for you real fast too. This is important. So think about this. When Obama won in 2012, he won about 39% of the white vote. That's really the average. That means, like, it may bounce between 39 to like 40 and change. And what's important to note is that the Democratic Party, its lifeline is, in fact, a multicultural constituency. Because no Democratic president since Lyndon Johnson won the white vote. It's not happening right now. As long as the Democratic Party continues to push for civil rights, maintain the civil rights vision, even if it's done poorly, even if it's done hypocritically, white America's not going to vote for that party. It's not happening. So when people were surprised at what Trump got, it's like, well, the Democratic Party just elected the first black president, and it was getting ready to put in the next, another historic achievement, the first woman president. Come on, what are you talking about? They're just not going to let that happen. They're going to fight against that. And people are like surprised that, white women voters fled. I mean, come on, it's not about, there's a priority of values. And so we got a lot of catching up to do too with our homework. I mean, a lot of progressives and liberals are surprised at how racist the society is. And that is why I think that contributes to what fools people to think that we gotta like aim after, go for the white swing voters. Nah, and I'm just saying that the white swing voters right now are not dependable, and because they're, I mean they're interested in other products in other markets that's antithetical to where we want to go. You know, somebody said to me in defense of a person who voted for Trump, a progressive who voted for Trump, they said something to the effect that, well, you know, Trump fooled them because he presented himself as a populist. I'm like, how's he presenting himself as a populist while he's spewing all this racist and fascist nonsense? Like, you mean that person, you know, you would ignore that? You looked at that as that individual who voted for Trump, who was a so-called progressive, must have said, well, you know, I can tolerate Trump's racism, fascism, and xenophobic tendencies as long as he do something good for the economy. As long as he's not deep state or it's crazy, right? So that means for some people, racism is not a major thing. Like, they can tolerate the status quo racism in a society and its impact on the black community, and patriarchy and misogyny and sexism. They can tolerate that as long as their pockets are right. Well, obviously, that's an example of white privilege. So that's what some things are. So we don't want those voters. No, we don't want those voters. Sammy says we need to focus on the black swing voters or non-voters and those who are denied the right to vote or were disqualified. Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're right about that. That's what we got to go for. And Samuel says, sad thing is a lot of voters are not following the politics behind the candidates, but makes their choices based on race or political status. And that's true too. Although I would say, you know, I admit I'll be biased on this. Well, I mean, I think that African American voters, you know, have a pass on making a decision based on race, in to the extent that because race is a category that is treated unfairly in this society, when we have candidates who are able to occupy certain spaces, there's a certain weakening of the power structure that do not want people of color in certain spaces. So having a person of color in certain spaces, obviously we want more action, but being realistic, we have to understand the resistance. Like, we may have ended Jim Crow in the public sphere, but when you get in these small corners, in the chambers of power, you will still see the strength and vitality of racism, as we saw when Obama became president. The embarrassing disrespect to this man and his family, having to show his birth certificate, engendering such hatred and resistance that an entire group of people agreed to shoot down anything that he brings up, even if it's something that their constituents would want or that their party would want to push. All of that to then elect someone who is 0.000001 of Obama's intellect and moral stature. And to protect this person, defend this person, regardless of their corruption, And then racism and fascism should remind us that, hey, if African Americans want to choose somebody based on race, you better believe that it's a political act in and of itself, because we know that white America does not want that. But it doesn't preclude the importance of understanding who you're voting for. That is true. My fear is not a fear anymore, because I fall into it. Even my rhetoric falls into it. I say my fear is that, we're not going to persuade certain voters to vote in the general election. It's just like, no, we already know if it's possible for 12% of Bernie supporters to vote for Trump, then that should let us know who we going to holler at. Who are we going to holler at? Holler at the people of color who suffer at the expense of white privilege, and women who suffer under the rule of sexism. Okay? So, anyway, that's it for tonight, yo. I'm happy to be back here with all of you. Yo, Samuel, thanks for dropping some bombs of insights. And I hope people, when they come see this, see this episode, will see your comments and have something to chew on. Because at the end of the day, if anything, I would definitely want to leave something for all of you to chew on. Political soul food, that's what it's all about. Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up tonight. Tomorrow I'll be on for the Toxic Trump Report. We see what's going on with that. So I want to say to all of you, stay up, keep doing your thing. Don't get discouraged. If you do, just recycle that feeling into some positive energy, because you know what? You probably got something you can share to somebody else and help them do better for themselves. All right? Each one teach one. Peace and love. Peace out.